Cuatarando se waguego, Roya Gawan ni young gets kanya haganyak go dodo, waganyato onora, niwagito road. So my name is Roya Gawan. I'm commonly known also as Dan Longboat, and I'm a Mohawk from Grand River, and I'm a Turtle Clan. Well, at the university here, we work with students that are 17, 18 years old, all the way up to, I think the oldest student that I had was 74. So I've had a good group of people. So I think, on average, if you had to average them out, probably students that are in their early to mid 20s. Our program is called Indigenous Environmental Studies and Sciences, and it's probably the only university accredited program of its kind in the world. And I guess the aim is to look at environmental issues that are impacting First Nations communities, and then to look at and understand that those same issues that are impacting communities are impacting wider society as well. And the application of, I guess, looking at and understanding what those problems are, bringing Indigenous reality, Indigenous knowledge, Indigenous teachings into those, and then adding in science and technology and multiple ways of seeing and examining problems. The hope is to try to create a broader, richer, deeper understanding of our reality and problems that we're facing, not just as Indigenous peoples, but as human beings. And then trying to apply those knowledge perspectives to bring them together to see how they inform and how that they, at the same time, how they may help us, it may help to lead to new solutions to problems that we're facing. So issues around water, sustainability, foods and medicines, natural resource development, land reclamation, strengthening biodiversity, looking at the role of language and Indigenous language and culture, looking at how to revitalize, teachings and how to put those into place, and then how to inform larger sections, keeping in mind that, as a public education institution, we are, engaging with both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students. And so being able to teach that and share that with a wide variety, a wide audience that incorporates, not just Canadians in terms of, Anglo-European Canadians, but really looking at it now in Canada, a multiplicity of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and being able to bring people together to be able to share knowledge and to be able to talk about and to have a deeper perspective of the problems that we're facing as human beings. It's really, I guess for us, it's really founded upon a strong kind of a cultural knowledge perspective. I think that when we look at, because again, keeping in mind that our area of concentration is around the environment, and the environment is at this point is quite broad in terms of definition. It's not just talking about the natural world, but it's also talking about urban centers, the built environment. It's including sort of a wide range of different implications of environment, from human health all the way up to ecological function, and the role of looking at the role of that ecological function and how it supports culture for Indigenous peoples, and at the same time how our culture as traditional Indigenous peoples supports the continuation of the environment. To look at that wide perspective of it, to see the numbers of students that we have the ability to impact from a wide range of areas. It's really looking at how do you bring these ideas together and how do you create learning out of that. So I think what's really novel with ours is that we start with Indigenous ideas and concepts that have helped to formulate and to create the landscapes that we're living in now. And then looking at how do you utilize multiple perspectives of knowledge, in this case, in the Western case of science and technology, to help address and to help to understand and then help to address solutions to the problems that we're facing. So it's a kind of a work in progress, but the idea behind it is that it helps to situate students by starting from an Indigenous base. It helps to situate students regardless of their cultural background with a connection and an understanding of their responsibility to environment. And in many cases, what it does is that it really touches students not just with ideas and concepts and thinking and data and information and knowledge, not just with sort of head information. It really kind of begins a process of talking about their connection as individuals, as families, as communities, and extrapolating it out from there. So it comes, because again it's based on traditional teachings, it begins to impact the way that they see themselves. So it becomes almost this idea of, the connection to the heart. And then our job then within an academic institution is to provide them with the knowledge and skills and abilities to be able to utilize that feeling to create the change with their hands. So we've talked about it before, this connection between head, heart, and hands. It's really for us kind of one of the foundational pieces, is that if we're going to make, facilitate and create change in any process, it's really starting from that premise of Indigenous knowledge and making that connection and making it real for students. Sciences, as good as they are, and technology as good as it is, has oftentimes been the cause of many of the problems that we see. So, it's a way of being able to reassess the value of science and reassess the opportunity to utilize and to create good science and to utilize technology in a way that helps to redress and to help to restore some of the degradation that we've caused as human societies living in the world. So really, to me, it's the measures of success for me is when you see the lights come on for students, whether they're in first year, second, third, or fourth, to see the light comes on, to see them as engaged human beings. A lot of times students come in and they're just, Indigenous and non-Indigenous students from a multiplicity of different backgrounds, their parents tell them, it's good to have a degree and it's good for them to, go to university and to come out, and the necessity of having a university education. That's great, and a lot of students in various disciplines, they learn a set of skills that they apply in their world. But oftentimes that the things that they apply and the things that they work on are not really connecting them as human beings. For me, the greatest measure of success is to see students and the lights come on for them. They see themselves differently. They connect with the world around them. They see themselves connected to their families, to their communities. They see themselves, as having a purpose, a duty, a vision, a sense of responsibility. And that awakening of that makes them engaged learners. We try to ignite a particular area of passion for them. So if a student has, an inclination or an interest in water or animals or trees or whatever aspect of the environment, the natural environment that they see, they make a connection with that, and they then become empowered to fulfill their responsibility to that particular area of concern, and ignite that as a form of passion. And when you see that passion come on, and you see them that they really want to work to change our relationship with water, or they really want to work to understand about what we're doing to trees, or to look at their connection to biodiversity of animals or different areas, they become empowered, impassioned, empowered learners, and then they want to learn as much as they can. So to see students engage in that, and then to see that how that impacts them and changes them throughout their time here with us in our program, and then to see them either go on to careers based on that, or to see them go on to graduate school, or to go on to higher levels of education, as in law or different areas that they want to go into to pursue it, to make monumental and positive change, foundational change. Then that, to me, that's the measure of success. So it doesn't just become nice things to know anymore, it becomes a way of life. When you think about Indigenous education, and I go back to the words that David Newhouse, the chair of the Wenjack School for Indigenous Studies, when he talks about this idea that Indigenous education is just good education. It's the kind of education that really works to inspire and to ignite students in their learning. It really, provides them with not just a skill set or a knowledge set, but it really goes on to kind of impact them in a real positive way in their life. We talk about this idea that, as you looking, we're at Trent here, we're getting ready to celebrate in 2019 our 50-year anniversary of Indigenous studies. And so, when we in the creation of Indigenous studies and coming out of anthropology from the work that Ken Kidd did so long time ago with Tom Simons, the then president, and a group of people working together, Harvey McHugh and many other people that were dedicated to it. It was basically looking at, that we were recognized as people of culture. So many different cultural activities were brought into the school, and students were, and myself included in that, because I was way back in 1973. I came here as a student, and and so to see the cultural underpinnings of that, and to see cultural knowledge being shared, and or I should say cultural activities being shared. We were kind of known as people with culture, as David talks about, right up until about the late 80s and early 90s. From that time then, we began to kind of look at the emergence of, this idea of Indigenous knowledge, the knowledge that's embedded within the culture and the cultural teachings, and its relevancy to so many other disciplines. So whether it's education, health, and the health sciences, environment, business, international development studies, psychology, philosophy, sociology, etc., Indigenous knowledge has the ability to contribute a broader understanding of those particular disciplines, and to reframe them in a different way, as to almost hold up a mirror to to not only, I guess, strengthen them, but also to show the integrity of knowledge systems or knowledge period, and how that knowledge then crosses various disciplines, and really helps to provide, I would say, students with a greater capacity for learning, and a greater understanding of how they see themselves in the world. And I think that when we talk about Indigenous knowledge, it's really recognizing the application of that, as well as looking at that process of application, and beginning to understand it, and the articulation of that, and even here we are 2018, and and our ability to articulate what Indigenous knowledge is just like it's in its infancy. It's just like we're just scraping the surface. And so you're going to see more fundamental things happen as the articulation of that knowledge comes forward. Many of our leaders so long time ago, talked about this idea that our knowledge is a sacred knowledge, and there's the necessity to promote and to protect and to revitalize and strengthen that knowledge within the communities. But at the same time, those same leaders talked about the necessity of us sharing our knowledge, because our knowledge is not just community knowledge, it's not just knowledge for our own well-being. Our knowledge is like world knowledge. And so this articulation of Indigenous knowledge then is, as Indigenous peoples, it's our contribution to the pool of human knowledge. So, we have a unique ability then to really, to dig down and to articulate and to understand Indigenous knowledge, and it comes forward. It's a whole different capacity, and it's a whole different understanding of how we see ourselves in the world. I think, it's a couple of things. I mean, as you mentioned, funding is one of the main, one of the main things that are holding us back, really doing the things that we need to, because, a number of different things. We need more experiential learning courses. First of all, we need more faculty. We need more individuals that are well steeped within their own cultural knowledge and traditions, and are and also that have a connection to a particular discipline. And that they have this kind of multiplicity of different perspectives that they're able to bring forward, which I think really unique about Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous perspectives is that it allows for and encourages the collaboration and the bringing together of knowledge. In most Western academic institutions, it's really just kind of one way of seeing the world. And that one way is as good as it is, it's limiting in so many different ways. Our ways of understanding it is bringing all of those four sacred colors of human beings together, and the knowledge systems together, not as an add and stir, but as a complement, as diversity, to look at the integrity of those knowledge systems coming together and how then they can help to inform our thinking to create uh, innovative thinking that's necessary. So what we need then is, like, in order to facilitate that, in order to create that, is the experience for those students to be able to have that. So we need those human resources, those funds, those learning opportunities to bring students, to bring educators, to bring elders, to bring knowledge holders here, uh, to within education, within institutes, and within communities, to be able to enrich and to and to strengthen that whole entire learning process. It's not just about having new books on the shelf, or it's not just about having new technological equipment. All of those things are important, but at the end of the day, Indigenous knowledge is held within people. And so the ability for us to be able to recognize and to affirm and to bring our teachers in, our educators in, and our traditional teachers in, to be able to bring them into a format like this to inform learning and to inform understanding and knowledge, that becomes our library. So it's really being able to open that up, and at the same time being able to take those students into communities and into the presence of knowledge holders, and so that they can learn from the land as well. So it's really important then that we have that multiplicity, that fluidity, to be able to move back and forward, as well as for us, again, within environment, is to be able to have the opportunity to access laboratories, to have information online, and to be able to collect data and to do the scientific research that we need to do. And at the same time to look at, what are the new and innovative processes and practices that we need to be able to teach. Many, I think what comes down to the challenges for us, within the academy and within the areas of learning, is really looking at the things that we're teaching right now and the skill sets that we're teaching and the technology that we're using. 5 years from now, that's going to be outdated. But the way of thinking, and when we talk about Indigenous knowledge, because it's an ancient knowledge, that will never go out. That will never go out of. That will never become outdated. That will never become redundant. It's the ideas and things that we can provide for, and concepts and frameworks of thinking and in living and engaging, that we're able to provide, that Indigenous knowledge is able to provide to those students, that will be the things that will carry them on into the future. Technology, applications, learning will change, and so, but the thinking will remain the same. If anything, it'll become more diverse, because again, it's engaging multiple perspectives and multiple knowledge systems and bringing them together in a collaborative, cooperative way. But I think that to be able to answer that question is, like, we need more human resources, we need more faculty, we need more elders, we need more traditional teachers, and we need those learning opportunities from bringing community into the institution, as well as taking the institution into the community. We need to be able to cross cultural divides. We need to be able to look at how do we create international complements to that knowledge and to that learning. So for us, it takes in a whole wide range of different opportunities that we're only limited by our imagination. So at the same time, to me, I think when you look at the future and the things that we're going to be able to do, and with the things that we've been able to do over the last 10, 15 years of our development of our program, we've made phenomenal strides ahead, and we've made phenomenal impact on students and the lives of students, and even within the institution itself. So for us, we're just scraping the surface of what the future is going to be able to bring. So I'm really, happy to be able to, have a small part in being able to carry that forward, and at the same time, to see the bright future that's ahead of us. Not just as Indigenous peoples, but bringing Indigenous knowledge into the academy to be able to accentuate and to, at the same time, strengthen Indigenous knowledge within the communities and within that framework, to teach language and culture, to teach perspectives, to teach the ideas of well-being, and looking at those principles that are inherent to Indigenous communities and really to Indigenous peoples all around the world, and at the same time to look at that those are human values. I mean, to me, what an exciting time to be here at the university, or here within the teaching framework.